It's now time. I've talked a little bit about the search committee and what we've gone through and process and all that. I'm just going to turn it over to Gary, our illustrious leader who guided us all through. And from there, we'll turn it over some time for Barak. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if there are any slides coming up on this one, but no slides? Okay, good. And Siri hopefully won't say, I'm sorry, I don't understand you while I'm talking. So, our search committees got together in the middle of summer and talked about what we wanted to do and get this together. So actually, I first want to thank all the search committee members. So if you could stand up, if you're here, and wave if you're online. Everybody deserves a big round of applause. And of course, Dory, as one of her last great efforts here at JCC Association, was our staff person, and thank you for all that. So basically, we Dory, you'll get a lot more tonight. And so basically, we got together the search committee. We selected our firm, Heidrick and Struggles, and they went out, as you know, to talk to a lot of our stakeholders around to see what it is, what kind of values, what kind of person we're looking for, what we expected from our new CEO and president. Did a great job sourcing a lot of resumes and candidates who are very interested in being here. It's always great when a lot of people apply because you know the job, people want this job because they think this is so exciting. And this is a great place to be, great place to work, and a great place to lead the North American Jewish community. Help me did. And as we went through the process then, they winnowed down what they had. We brought their resumes to the search committee, winnowed it down even more, had our first round of virtual interviews using Zoom, had a second round of interviews, again, using Zoom. And then we brought the finalists to Houston so we could talk face to face. And those discussions were great because each one was slightly different. One was a very set of questions that we asked everybody the same questions. One was a little more of a conversation, letting them go deeper. And then Houston was really more just a conversation around the table, allowing all the different candidates to talk to us and tell us a little more about where they believe this is going. And at the end of the day, I was very pleased to be able to walk into the room next to us and come up to Barak and say, congratulations, we have selected you as our next CEO and president. And that was a fabulous opportunity. He had to hang up on his wife for me to tell him that. Hopefully he called her back. So I'm really pleased now to bring up Barak. And as his first real discussion as our incoming CEO and president of the JCC Association of North America.
Good morning, everybody. I would be remiss if I didn't say that I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm going to put this here. Does that work, everybody? Can you hear me fine? Yeah. Wow. I woke up this morning and I wanted to walk up to Columbia and I have all these remarks and all these things I've been thinking about. But the first thing I thought about was how my dad graduated from Columbia in 1957. And he came here and he went to the joint program at the Jewish Theological Seminary. And there he had the opportunity to study with one of the great theologians, Abraham Joshua Heschel. My dad liked to bring Heschel all the time into my mornings with him. I wasn't very interested, as you can imagine, at that age. But Heschel said that every day we should wake up in radical amazement that we're alive. And that we get to do something really special. And I woke up this morning thinking about my dad and the learnings of Heschel and thinking to myself, not what I have to do today, what do I need to do today, or what do I get to do today? And get to have the opportunity to work with all of you and to think about it for all of us collectively, that every day we're waking up, and that God gave us this opportunity to make a difference in the world. So I know my dad would be so proud to know that I'm standing here at Columbia. I wasn't the best student in high school to end up in Columbia, but Dad, I am at Columbia University today. But the fact is that I am overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with this opportunity because this JCC movement has been part of my life. And I want to have a conversation with you today, and I'll share more about myself. But I want to ensure you that this is a conversation and a relationship. And relationships are about honesty, transparency, confronting the brutal facts, getting people into the right seats, and driving our mission. My appreciation to this movement, I'll share in a moment, but I really first want to thank David and Gary. I served on this board for 8 years, and to be back in this boardroom is very, very welcoming to me and very comfortable. I have colleagues that are some of my dearest and bestest friends in this room. There are past chairs that I've watched since 1994 when I entered this room. I was an Eddie Kaplan Scholarship recipient for graduate school. This movement gave me a scholarship. To working with Paula and Alan, I remember reading reports written for my thesis in graduate school on the role of JCCs that had Ann Kaufman as president. My connection to this movement has been running deep for 30 years. My appreciation to Jen. I believe that leadership is about the right person at the right time. And those of us who have been execs a long time know that we try to get the right board chair at the right time. And I tell my colleagues, the first one you inherit, the second one you accept, the third one's on you. Jen, you were the right person at the right time. Our movement did not see a year ago that there would be a change needed. My friend Jerome decided to step aside and follow his heart to Israel, and we needed someone to heal us. And at that time, it wasn't just Jerome's leaving. It was actually 90 days, 4 months after the worst, most horrific crisis since the Holocaust. And Jen does what she does best, is manage relationships, treat us like we're a family, and hold us. So to Jen, I'm very honored. Now, admittedly, I have a lot to be nervous about. You might say, what are you nervous about? What are you anxious about? Well, I'm a sports junkie. And I came to appreciate a long time ago that Michael Jordan used to say he gets really nervous before every game. They would say, well, how can Michael Jordan get nervous? You put up 35 points a night. And he said once in an interview, I thought was beautiful, but there's some kid in some family who hasn't seen me play yet. Right? There's lay people in this room who have not seen me do the work I love. There are execs that are new to our field who I have not yet got to know. So of course I'm nervous, because I don't want to miss this opportunity the first time they come into our JCCA stadium to embrace what I'm trying to do with all of you is to propel us forward. And I know I'm not supposed to say JCCA, JCC Association North America, the marketing people, I promise you, I'll figure that out. I have Alan Finkelstein in my head saying it's JCC Maccabi. Don't say Maccabi. People have asked me, which I thought would be cute to share with you, what do my sons and my family think about this? Well, I thought I'd share with you that I thought this was kind of cute, was that my son, Zachary, says to me last week, I read all these articles about you, but I'm kind of offended that you didn't talk about how your boys have impacted your JCC career, created who you are, and have put up with you for over the entire time. I was like, thanks, Zach. He goes, no, it's a nice article, but you could have mentioned us and had someone else interview us. We've been moving 3 times for you through multiple JCCs. My son, Jake, who's 25 in New York, my entrepreneurial son, said to me on December 18th, wait, you have this opportunity? I said, yeah, because that's really exciting. Wait, Hanukkah's next week. Are you upgrading the presents? I said, Jake, this is not about you. And then my youngest, Jonah, says to me, wait a minute. Are we moving? I said, no, we're going to stay put in Baltimore for a while. And he said, I just want to know, will Judy, who's the executive assistant who keeps me honest and keeps me out of trouble, said, will she still have my favorite drinks in the executive fridge? So at camp, I can sneak into her office. I said, we'll make sure the drinks are there. Your Hanukkah presents will be upgraded. And Zach, I'll talk about you more about how you've impacted my life. But really behind me has been a partner, my wife Corey, who we both met at URJ camps in 1992 as camp unit heads. And from that, we went on a Jewish journey together. It brings me great comfort that when I tell you a little bit more about my journey, as I look out into this room, and I see so many familiar faces who've seen me grow up. It's to Steve Seiden, who in 2002, I joined Steve at the JCCs of Metro West. I came from the Suffolk-wide JCC. I started in 1994. Why did I start in 1994? The fact is, I'm a son of a Reform rabbi who for 55 years, I saw lead congregations and lead with conviction and passion. My dad was a passionate Reform rabbi, a deep studier of Kabbalah, but he had an ability to understand where demographics and population trends were going. I remember in 1987, my dad and my mom having a kind of a pretty heavy argument because my dad had received a note from the Central Conference of American Rabbis that if he kept on performing intermarriages, they were going to kick him out of the movement. And I said, Dad, I was on the NIFTY board then. I said, Dad, you're like, people are talking about you. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, why are you doing interfaith marriages? He said, Dad, he said to me, Barak, these are my kids. If I tell them I'm not going to get under the chuppah with them, what's going to happen? I said, Dad, you shouldn't be doing this. He goes, but you need to think 20 years from today. Everybody's going to be wrestling with this. So I grew up in a home that was really deeply about inclusivity, embracing diversity of Jews, but not being judgmental. Of course, my dad wanted everyone to intermarry, but he understood where the world was going really almost 40 years ago and where the trends were. But I did not want to be a rabbi. Being the rabbi's son was a heavy task, no less trying to be a rabbi. My mom taught me the passion of Israel. My mom was born in Israel in 1935, then British Mandate Palestine. My Savta and Saba came on the third Aliyah to Israel. They were deeply secular Jews who saw this rise of anti-Semitism after World War I, that there wouldn't be a place for them. And they had the, really, I say thank God, the chutzpah, the courage to get on those boats and those pictures we've seen and sail to what was then Palestine. And my grandparents were founders of the first cement factory in Israel, the Esher Cement Factory, to build a modern country. Why do I share the rabbinic home and an Israeli family? Because I used to think that was an interfaith marriage. My mom was like deeply, like the records were playing Israel music. The snacks after school were not devil dogs, they were boiled pierogies. And my father was running around trying to make a difference in the Jewish world. And to see Sheila here now, who was with my dad and his time in Long Beach, and to see Steve Seiden, who's been on that journey, and that's Suzanne Tucker, who I was chair with the board with in Central New Jersey, sitting next to Annette Saxon, who is my board chair in Baltimore. To have all these familiar faces, it's been incredible. So in 1993, I was studying hotel management. I really wanted to run hotels. I had kind of an entrepreneurial kick, I had a business mindset, and I realized quickly that my life could not be margins of hotel rooms. My dad told me he thought that day would come too. He says, it's time to go to rabbinical school. And I said, absolutely not. What am I going to do? So I went back to the place I felt comfortable, which was the URJ campus, Camp Eisner. And I spoke at the end of the summer. All my friends were going off to HUC, to different Jewish professions. And I said to the camp director, who is a former camp director, Camp Interlaken, the JCC Sleepaway Camp of Milwaukee, he said, Barak, you should check out the JCC world. I said, but what's the JCC world? I don't even know what that is. I never heard of a JCC. He goes, you'll love it. It's people of all ages, it's arts and culture, it's youth and families, it's sports and wellness, and there's no shul. You can decide when you go to services. I go, what is this place? I want to run one of those. And in 1994, I knocked on the door of Bessie Pine, if anyone might remember her. And she ran JCC Works, I don't even know what it was called. And she said, young man, when you come in here and look for a job, you put on a jacket. This is a professional movement. And she said, you know, you grew up in NIFTY, you grew up with a nice background in Jewish culture and Jewish identity. let's send you out to some JCCs. And a woman named Helene Strauss and Joel Block hired me at the Suffolk Y. And during those years at the Suffolk Y, I learned about programming. I learned about supervision. I learned about keeping your ego in check. I learned about outreach and development. I learned about Jewish education. I went off to the Rootsweiler School of Social Work, and I wrote my thesis on the role of JCCs versus synagogues in advancing Jewish life. Just became passionate about what is the role of a JCC vis-a-vis a synagogue? What does it mean? And really the essence of my thesis back was that JCCs need to bring joy to their Jewish communities. And I figured out that there could be a role for synagogues and a role for JCCs. And then, I'll never forget, Alan Mann called my supervisor and said, is Barak ready to move on? Metro West took a, I wouldn't say a gamble. They brought me at 31 with a young little family to New Jersey. And as Steve and I know very well, during those years, I learned about capital renovations. I learned about budget challenges. I learned about the Federation JCC relationship, the goods, bads, and everything in between. I learned about, at one time, trying to navigate a Whippany JCC and reimagine a West Orange JCC. And then 5 years later, Steve Robb called and said, it's time for you to maybe try your own opportunity. And that was to go to Central New Jersey and become an exec. And I really wanted to be an exec at 35, but I was 36. And I went there, and during those 5 years, learned about just mobilizing energy, transformational leadership, moving a building from eggshell white to adding some color, both in terms of walls and people and programming and energy. And boy, was that a tough run. It was the financial crisis. At 4 CFOs in 5 years, I learned about, and Suzanne knows these days, I learned about cash flow management. I learned about the business side of JCCs. And then on a trip to Poland with Leah and Suzanne, Alan Finkelstein asked me to off the bus in front of the Dan Panorama and said, you should take a look at Baltimore. I said, I'm a New York Yankee. They're not going to like me in Baltimore. And he said, well, it's a charming city. You think you have some similar qualities to the legendary Buddy Sapolsky, who I was so honored to have as a mentor and follow him. And went to Baltimore. And for the person who succeeds me, they will know it is one of the most amazing Jewish communities, JCC communities in North America. And I always start every remarks there saying, I am so honored to be the CEO of the oldest JCC in North America. And during this past decade, wow, we have learned about reimagining JCCs, reimagining governance structures, making sure that everybody understood their role within the organization, from past chairs to new board members to even teens sitting on our board. That everybody had a role and a responsibility. We learned about navigating org charts and putting the right staff in the right seats so they can succeed. We dealt with the pandemic. We've dealt with bomb threats. We've dealt with financial stress. And today, the Baltimore JCC is hitting on all cylinders. Because it took that kind of work. So, yes, I am going down memory lane a little bit with you. But I'm going down there because I want you to know that this has been who I've been for over 30 years. But maybe it's really who I've been since I was born in 1970. Born into a home that loved Jewish joy. I don't remember ever judging or fighting about what kind of Jew is a better Jew. The only thing I ever really experienced growing up in the Reform movement was the beauty of the Orthodoxy movement. And one of the things that intrigued me about Baltimore, as I've come to say, the Owings Mills JCC is Tel Aviv, and the Park Heights JCC is Jerusalem. That we have to figure out as JCCs, how do we truly create a sense of unity within our community? Jen, when I was in Central New Jersey, I didn't think a lot about the Jews in Elizabeth. I really wish I did. I wish I could have thought back then the importance of bridging people, because of the events of the last year. The religious Jews have said to us, they think that some of the bad things that have happened to us is because there's a lack of unity. Boy, who does that better than all of us to unify Jews in our communities and across North America? We got some time. I can keep on going, right? So I also sometimes, when I need some inspiration, I like to look at the Torah portion. I always believe that when Jews gather, there should be some nuggets of Torah. I once had a board chair, Will Minkin, who said to me, You know, I don't do a lot of studying, so bring it on in the boardroom. Just at least improve my literacy so I can learn more. So I want to share with you about this week's portion, which is Parshat Shemot. The portion's about Moses ascending to a new leadership role. How fortuitous. Moses risks a great deal approaching Pharaoh, and that creates a base level of trust. His continued persistence earns another. He will not enjoy full trust, however, until he delivers on a promise. Some promises are short-term, and others take years to fulfill. But for Moses, however, fulfilling the promise is not just about getting the Jews out of Egypt. That was a short-term promise. It was as much about getting them to the next destination, the promised land. Unfortunately for Moses, his period in trial of error lasted 40 years. I don't got 40 years. Credibility is fragile and constantly shifting entity in that ancient relationship. By no means am I equating myself to Moses. I hear my sons hitting me on the back of the head. However, the lessons are true today. I am taking a risk. And because of that, I feel some initial trust from my colleagues, all of you, and funders, especially across the country. And my promise is more than just a short term to maybe help us turn around some budget challenges, maybe roll out a new dues model with transparency and affirming that that dues model is still a work in progress. And in some cases, in the short term, we have to reestablish the relationship with the fields. But I will tell you that I'm here for the long-term promise, to position JCCA to capture its moment, to be an amplifier and a maximizer of Jewish identity, Jewish education, literacy, and global peoplehood. While Moses' accomplishments may be remarkable, his credibility is not static. As Rabbi Rothberg points out, if you know his book, leaders are not trusted because they make a promise and deliver once, but because they are able to do it again and again. That is my promise, and I don't have 40 years to do it. I want you to know that my long-term promise is to lead with transparency, kindness, openness, collaboration, and connectedness to each other. That's why I said yes. As I recognize where we are today, there's got to be one bottom line, and that's Jewish continuity. That's the business that we're all in. We might have different mission statements, but there's one bottom line. I believe we must seize this moment post 10/7 to unify our Jewish people. I believe we need to understand and hear what the Jewish demographics are saying without judgment. There's a beautiful prayer that we know, Shema Yisrael, but the word Shema means hear. Hear with accountability to what our colleagues and the field needs. Actually, you're using music references, and I was thinking about a movie reference. Does anyone know the movie White Man Can't Jump? There's a great scene where Woody Harrelson is listening to Jimi Hendrix. Wesley Snipes looks at him in the car and says, "You listen to Jimmy?" Because yeah, I listen to him all the time. He goes, "You don't hear Jimmy. You think you're listening to him, but you don't hear him." And I love that because it reminded me that hearing is different than listening. We need to hear what our colleagues are saying. We need to hear what our boards are saying, our communities are saying, and to be there for them in true achdut, which is the Hebrew word for unity. It is a fundamental principle in Judaism that people are said to come together at a time of crisis and good time. We also need to foster this connection to Israel. We can talk a lot about Israel today and our responsibility, that we're responsible for each other. But Moses told the Jews on that journey that Israel will be where your sons and daughters, your male and females, your Levites from your towns will sing together, worship together, and celebrate the festivals together. Where else in the Jewish community other than the JCC, do we all sing together, come together, learn together? People can go to their own lane with their own ideologies, Reform, Conservative, Orthodox, do it on your own, in their house, basement shuls. I've seen it all. But where do people truly feel a sense of community where they can sing and worship together? And that is the J. And that is the covenant that we have as the JCC Association of North America, to bring joy. As Aristotle said, joy is the ultimate purpose of human existence, and love is the light, David, as you said. And as Lord Jonathan Sacks said, I think of Judaism as an ode to joy. He once wrote, like Beethoven, Jews have known suffering, isolation, hardship, and rejection, and yet they never lacked the religious courage to continue to rejoice. We must be a movement of positivity, optimism, and excitement. Because like I said, there's one bottom line. I tell that to the team at the jail all the time, is Jewish continuity for the communities I work with. So what we do and why we do it, it's ultimately for our children and their children, to create a better future for the world, a better world. Our movement will focus on Jewish families, the new Jewish families that are of mixed heritage, that are LGBTQ, that are interfaith, that are Jew curious, that are on journeys themselves. We will focus on improving our literacy. We will focus on Jewish camping, a movement that I have really has been the backbone of my Jewish identity, JCC Maccabi and other teen efforts. We need to be obsessed with the age of 15 to 30. If you read the story, what's being commented on today is that there's this surge in Jewish joy, and there's very concerned about Jewish literacy. The Jews want to be proud, but they don't know how to defend themselves. No matter how difficult things may seem, maybe as an organization at times, we must be driven by the positive and the negative. We cannot forget to see the good. I want to be in relationship with all of you. There's 70-something board members. There's 170 execs. We have past chairs. We have 170 chairs of JCC boards. That's over 400 people. If everybody gets an hour with me to clear out, that's 400 hours. That's about 2 weeks' work for me. Okay, that's a joke. Okay. But I need to make sure that when our time is together, it is productive and uplifting and about optimism in the future. You want to take me down memory lane? I'll go there with you. But let's use it only for the opportunity to learn what didn't work as we move forward. And the most important thing I want JCC Association to stand for, let us be known for what we do and not just what we say we do. We need to do really important things right now for the Jewish world. And let's do this together. Some people have asked me, what is my strategic priorities? What's the framework that I might think that will propel us into the future and inspire the field and funders? And I'll give you a taste of what's on my mind. But please know, I have so many hypotheses in my head that I need to go out and test. One is we need a comprehensive talent strategy. We must be laser focused on executive leadership and executive onboarding. More execs entering the field from outside of the background I had, with a passion to speak beautifully, with a deep understanding of Jewish identity, but struggle to understand how to run this business. We must give them the tools immediately and be indispensable to them in the first 3 years of their existence, and promise you all they will be loyal to us. I went through imposter syndrome in my 30s, and it was JCC Association North America who took every call from me, that gave me every data point. If it was Alan Goldberg, David Posner, Ann Eisen, Dory, I'd go on and on. We must be indispensable to our executive colleagues. From there, we must build a talent pipeline that supports from the camping directors to early childhood to teen professionals and on and on. We have an opportunity to be one of the most inspiring platforms for young people to come to work. We need more talent in the Jewish community. The second area for me that's a laser focus on my mind is Jewish innovation and entrepreneurship. We have to drive innovation. There's amazing things that are happening in the field. Let's take it from the field, let's scale it, let's go to funders, and let's put it in other JCCs. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. But at the same time, we need to obsess about the problems that are happening in the Jewish world and in the areas that we don't have the answers. And I would love to see this movement be seen as one of the leading incubators of Jewish ideas and Jewish programming. That means we have to drive our drive both the field and outside people to look at us as such an organization of envy, that they will come to us to want to obsess on the problems and build the answers together. And that I'm very excited that we can become a laboratory for Jewish identity and Jewish ideas. And lastly, for right now, I am obsessed about making sure that we connect Jews to each other and to Jews globally. I just came back from Budapest. I love JCC Global, Sheila. You know that. To feel the story and the connection between Jews here and Jews in Europe, in Israel, in Argentina, in Italy, we are connected to each other by this story. So as we strengthen our fields, let's make sure that we strengthen ourselves globally with our collective responsibility. I also have to admit, I wasn't a CEO, I'm a wannabe chief marketing officer. We have to make sure that our brand, Joanne, buckle up. But Joanne and I have known each other for 10 years. I believe that my job also is to protect the logo. Not only the logo, but what this organization stands for. That when people see the JCC Association logo, it stands for something innovative, supportive, collaborative. And people say, wow, the JCC Association is putting their logo on it. That means this is a credible thing. That's what we built in Baltimore. When people see our logo and we put it on something, they know it stands for inclusivity, welcoming, and professional. And so when we get the partner, people always say, I love that you are partnering with us because having your logo adds credibility. I go, I want it to add more than credibility. I want it to add depth, meaning, and impact. So what's my process going to look like the next 6 months? I got to finish up Baltimore strong. That community has given me opportunities, but I will tell you, they are very, very proud. They are proud of who they are. I know that they're proud of me, and boy, do I love them. At the same time, I can't speak to you today and say, I'll see you in May, and say to my colleagues, I'll see you in 6 months. The process is for me to work closely with Jen, and my gratitude that she will lead the team and handle the day-to-day, but weekly be in conversation with me to onboard me and to guide me. And that includes David and other board members as well. I need time to engage the executives of the field. How fortuitous. 1 week ago, I get voted in. 1 week later, I'm here. And in 2 weeks from today, we'll have 150 of my colleagues from North America at the Baltimore JCCs. My mission was pure when we were going to host this conference in Baltimore. It was not thought that this would be my coming out party. I did not think at the Gordon Center for Performing Arts that spot in the schedule said what remarks for the new CEO would be made. It was never my intention. My intention was to bring our colleagues together after a year ago, feeling that things were just not where they needed to be, and that maybe I could help with the reset by hosting this conference in Baltimore. How fortuitous that I will see them all in 2 weeks at the Baltimore JCCs. I've also committed to going to the Mid-Atlantic JCC conference to meet with 30 of my colleagues, and just this weekend, discuss with David and Jen, representing our movement at the Western Regional Conference in Northern California to meet colleagues there. I will do my best, as I said to David, in 10 hours a week, probably some more, but to make sure that I am immediately in relationship with the field without managing the day-to-day. That I'll leave to Jen and the capable hands of the senior leadership team. I also need to make sure over the next 6 months that the people that work at JCCA feel a connection to me beyond the picture. And I will do my best to reach out to each one of you for quality one-to-one time. Yes, I will spend time with my long-term colleague, Michael Feinstein, to learn about the budget and the tracking systems. And as Michael and I know, if you're not measuring it, you're not managing it. And we will manage this budget tightly and closely. But please know, and please hear me, I believe this budget to be a transitional budget. It's not one that I believe is set up to propel us forward. I believe it can be a year of transition as we map out some strategic investments. So, we got like 35 minutes, and I think I can do some Q&A, but I want to end with one thing. There's a lot more I can say. Hopefully you can understand my passion. Hopefully you can understand why I said yes. Hopefully you can understand why I am really nervous. As I said, I love my drive up and down tree-lined roads in Baltimore. But I've always been ambitious about what my impact can be, and I felt at this time with my colleagues, and I said, whoever wants it, take it, I'll support you. And I felt my colleagues were tapping me and saying, we need you. And for that, I felt honored, because beyond the search committee, as much as I appreciated David and Gary, it was really my colleagues who gave me the confidence to say, if you go for it, we got you. And I'm going to hold my colleagues to that. I'm going to end with one thing that guides me every day. My father used to end every call with me by saying, keep the faith. That's all he said. Sometimes you say, I love you, but for the most part, all right, Barak, keep the faith, have a good day. When my dad passed away in November of 2020, I started to try to figure out, what did my dad mean to keep the faith? So I met with some Orthodox rabbis, and I said, I want to understand, what was my dad trying to message to me that I can now message to all of you this morning? And here's what keep the faith means to me. You'll hear me say it a lot. One is surround yourself with people that you admire. Right? During the darkest of days, the best of times, when we surround ourselves with people we admire, it makes it a lot easier. So the first thing in keeping the faith as a JCC Association North America is let's surround ourselves with people we admire. Look at the quality of talent in this room. Look at the quality of talent in our local communities. And boy, we're an organization and will be an organization of envy where people will want to be around us. So let's support ourselves with people that we admire. The second thing my dad inspired in me was make every day count. If I was lounging around too long, he would say, well, you're going to spend your whole day contemplating your navel? Get up, go do something with yourself. You know, my dad started his days at 5:30 in the morning on the tennis courts. He said, get up, exercise, get your heart going, get your brain going, make every day count, make a difference in someone's life. Feel like you put in a good effort. Well, we know JCCs, we start at 5:15 in the morning and we go to 10 o'clock at night. So in terms of making every day count, I think the work says that. But there's a third thing about keeping the faith. Surround yourself with people you admire, make every day count, and the third thing is just pray. Because most of this stuff is out of your control. But the stuff that's out of your control is a lot easier if you're ready to make every day count and surround yourself with people you admire. I am really excited to work with all of you. I'm going to give it more than the old college try. I'm going to try to use my personal background, my professional background, trusting my colleagues, all of you, the funders. We will lead with confidence. We will have a culture of kindness, transparency, innovation, and one of my most important words is that we will shema, we will hear with accountability. Thank you very much, everybody. I really appreciate that. That makes me full heart, full heart. But as I said, and it came out of my mouth just last week on the board call, David sent me a note that night saying, I'm ready to buckle up. I am someone who appreciates the love, but I'm also someone who's like, let's get to work. So who's got questions for me? Anything that you might be thinking about that you just want to ask me? And no holds barred. I'll say what I know at this time. But I know some of you have questions. You're too smart. I'm going to put one of my colleagues on the spot. Ruth?
Well, once you get started, did you mention everyone when you're going to get started?
Yeah, so my official start date is today, but working, but officially on June 30th.
June 30th, and then, so you're going to be staying in Baltimore, and then how often do you think you'll be in the city? Or, I mean, I understand your travel is going to be extensive, probably in the beginning, if you're going to field and things like that.
In terms of very onboarding plan, the first thing is I gotta be there for the team in the New York offices. That's the people doing the heavy lifting every day. I've got to understand the workplace culture. They have to adjust to me, I have to adjust to them. And so you can imagine, without holding me exactly to it, with 70% of my time being in New York for a while and 30% out. as we build mutual trust and strategic priorities, you'll start to see that go to 50-50, and maybe within a year, go to 70% external and 30% internal. I need to know that everybody's rowing together, and sometimes it can get really exciting. I've been in these, this is my third time onboarding into an executive role. I can get caught up with all the lunches and dinners and people wanting to meet with me, and I'll forget about the team. It starts with the JCC professional team feeling supported. And I need to make sure that we know what work we're doing and in a thoughtful way. And I balance the excitement of meeting tons of people. But those of you that know me, I have lots of energy. And I think Suzanne and Annette can attest to that. Steve maybe, but I can go many hours a day, but it has to be thoughtful, disciplined, and structured. So hopefully that answers you a little bit for a while.
Barak over here.
Oh. Hi.
Wondering how you've been in your mind thinking about how you're going to translate your brilliance, your skill, your success at a national, international level. What sort of been going through your mind? It's clear you know how to do extraordinary work at JCCs. How does it translate when you have less input? Less hands-on.
So to hear your question was, how do I think I'll go about connecting with people nationally, telling our story nationally?
Accomplishing your objectives, what have you done locally?
I love that question. Look, my professional tombstone, maybe decades down the road, should say people support what they help create. I will go out and ask people, tell them what's on my mind. I love to ask people if they were me, what do they want me to be thinking about? How can they contribute to it? How can they poke holes in it? What they want me to learn from it. So when I go out there, I think I might have some local cred, but this is about an opportunity for a larger impact here. And I need to build really immediately trusting relationships. This is not about my ego of credit. I even love when I share things with people and they take the credit. If the impact happens, phenomenal. So I think my opportunity is to go out there, represent us, paint a picture of collaboration. Everyone knows we got the biggest market. Everyone knows we're the largest employer. I've heard about it all week from funders. So what? But now it's so now. And so my strategy be, if I'm answering your question, I think I am, is to be in deep relationships. And to be really, really working on those relationships from, we should be combating Jew hatred on our own. Jonathan Greenblatt, oh my lovely, reached out to me from the ADL, to Rick Jacobs from the Union of Reformed Jews, the head conservative, to whoever. We need to be in deep relationship with each other. That the turf wars, we have no time for them anymore. I actually don't even think they really exist anymore. I think people talk about turf wars between synagogues and Jays. It's a little old school, and with the right dialoguing, we can really make sure that we're all rowing together. But we got to really focus on that relationship piece. And to add to that is, relationships are really nice. And then I also could say, so what? You have a nice relationship. How can they contribute to our strategic priorities? How can we bring them into helping us? They need us as much as we need them. That I'm for sure. And so we need to right off the bat build trusted partnerships. Hi.
We have a question from Zoom from Sue Straight. She says, is there any area in JCC?
Hold on.
Hi, we have a Zoom question from Sue Straight. She says, is there any area in JCC Association programming you would like to grow or add?
Is there any programming I would like to grow and add? There's some things I want to bring back pretty quickly. I've talked about the importance of executive training programs. I'm the last graduate in 2005 of executive development. I think we lost a pipeline, of execs. We have major openings right now. I think 6 or 7 across the field. They should be looking at an executive training class and saying who's available, just like it happened to me at 35. So executive training is really important to me. I'm very much into, and I believe that Jewish camping is critical, and we need to think about how we're going to support both the Jewish day and resident camping movements. What do they need from us? I love the Foundation for Jewish Camping. I love Grinspoon Foundation, their work, but what is our role as the largest platform? Are we just a seat at the table? Are we leading the table? But really working with my camping colleagues to figure out what we need to do to support them. Those that know me very well know that I'm just always deeply invested around teens. What Sam has done and Lenny Silverman before around the JCC Maccabi games, oh my. And Sam knows I don't think I've missed the games, and to be there, but that should not be our only catalyst for teen engagement. There are many teens that does not fit. And even though we need to grow that number and double that number, there are really amazing ways that we learned in Baltimore about deepening Jewish teen engagement. So if it's partnering with Matt Grossman in a whole new way at BBYO, if it's different like that, but I think we need to really expand our teen platform. So, and I'm really, really passionate. I think you heard me say that earlier about Jewish family education. I think we need to have a brand. We've built a brand called J-Life. I'm not saying it is perfect for every community, but I would love to see a brand of Jewish family education that if you go from one J to another, you might say, what's your J Family Life program? What's your J Family Life program? So I think some kind of brand that threads us around Jewish family education, because everyone comes to the JCC for holiday programming, the rhythm of the Jewish calendar, but I think there might be some creative way to put a brand and umbrella on that for the movement.
Barak, can I ask a question?
Hey, Paul.
This is David Begelfer.
Thank you. I'm interested in hearing what you see our role as a board moving forward. Is it sort of status quo? Is there an evolution? What role do you see us playing as we vision together and try to roll out these strategies?
I don't know how to spell status quo. Paddle to the metal. You know, Paul, I believe that board members are thought partners, door openers, sustainers. I really believe that there's so much talent in this room. There are boards across North America, both secular and Jewish, that want you. Why do you say yes to us? Is because you gotta really feel you're contributing, strategizing, not operating. I believe in governance boards that set strategy and direction and philosophy, and then leave it to the professionals, the board execs, our field to figure out the programming and the operating structures. But I need you as thought partners. I need you to believe in creating this vision together. And from there, when you're equipped as thought partners, which you already are, how does that open up doors to inspire others to jump in, including funders? All of you have connections. And so one thing that is really important to me, Paul, around governance is, and I've heard some things already, our structures, how do we operate as a board? I told the search committee, I'm like a volunteer management junkie. Okay, I love to make sure volunteers have a great experience. I also want to make sure that their time is not wasted. It feels valuable, that we don't sit in meetings over and over again, pontificating about the same thing with no strategic outcome. So I like decisive decision-making, and then let's go. So I enjoyed my 8 years on this board. I'm not coming in here to revolutionize the board. I'm coming in here to be thought partners with you. Executive transition always requires a look at everything, and I want to hear from you. And I want to be in partnership with you, all for that one major goal. And if all of our goals are sincere and our missions are pure, and those that know me will know my mission is pure, it's just about Jewish continuity. So how can the board support a strategic plan? How can a board be working on strategic priorities? How do we potentially redo our governance structures in a way that makes people feel like they're even more contributing? I'm not going to be prescriptive yet, but I think I have some ideas on how we can make this be even more engaging for all of you. Hi.
Hi, I wasn't gonna ask a question since I just became a board member an hour and a half ago. But
I heard you on the board before.
I was, I couldn't help it. Keying off of something you said, Barak, and your story is so inspirational, and I tapped so many notes about your priorities and the way that you think about things. So you said something, we should be combating Jew hatred on the ground. And I just wonder if you have any initial thoughts about how this movement might start thinking about that. I know that's a pretty programmatic question, but you said it, so I thought I'd
No,
respond
for-
back next.
First of all, I love the question, because I don't think it's programmatic, I think it's relational. You know, one thing I learned in Baltimore was the Baltimore Jewish community is a pretty powerful Jewish community, very tight, but also, like, it's hard to break in. I found that my priority when I came there was to get myself involved in the global community, to demystify the Jews of Baltimore. You know, people would say you're the first Jewish person I've seen in one of our programs. We haven't had anyone come from the Jewish community to our meetings. What that did for me is allowed me to create relationships with the wider community. I joined Leadership Baltimore. I chair the corporate roundtable of CEOs of the community. They didn't really have a relationship with the JCC. What happened because of that was authentic relationships for the last 12 years. If there's anything that happens to the Jewish community, I'm getting as many calls now from secular leaders, the head of Catholic Charities. I have a monthly lunch with the CEO of the Wise of Maryland, $100 million Y, because we're sharing ideas about how we can grow our community. So when you ask me about how we might go about it, I really think that we as a JCC movement also need to inspire our executives to not just focus on the particular Jewish identity, which is our existence, but what is our role in the universal community of doing community relations. Many of that was left for the JCRCs, the Jewish Community Relations Council. No one's thought of the JCCs as doing community relations. I think we're the community relation agency. Yes, the JCRCs are going to write the policy statements and respond to things, but we're building community. So I would love to see this national movement be in deep relationship with the Wise of USA. I shared with David the other day an email from the Catholic Charities of America. I want us to be in connection with each other, so when there is a problem, we have allies, but let's not reach out to them when there's a problem. Let's think about strategically how we can leverage our platform to be in relationship with the other. That is very different from when I started in this field, talking about the universal community. But everyone, we have to recognize 70% of families intermarry, which means that 7 out of 10 families walking through the JCC likely have one parent or one set of grandparents not Jewish. How are we making them feel welcome? So the more that they see that their JCC is out there, trying to make the world a better place, not just for Jews, but for everyone. So, we have a beautiful programming we do with the Y. We call it the Y and the J, Stronger Together. Everybody needs a Y or J in their life. We just need to continue to build out allies across the country. I think people are going to answer our call. I think they're trying to figure out how to support us, but it's beyond just a tearing emoji on Facebook. I'm sorry what you're going through. We need deep relationships. The programming is easy, by the way. Programming to me has always been easy part. Do we have the strength, the cost up front to do the relational work? Because often when I reach out to people, the first thing they say is like, "Why have an agenda?" I'm like, "No, I just think you do some really great work in the community. I'd love to get to know you." They're like, "You have no agenda?" I'm like, not all Jews have agendas. So I just want to get to know you, right? We have to embrace people of color, because if we're going to allow Jews of color to feel that they can see themselves at the JCC, they're not going to feel good if they only think that we like them because we found out that they're Jewish. And that's something we have to deal with a lot in Baltimore, was that there were Jews of color and biracial marriages. So reaching out to national black, whatever, but all these national organizations, I think we have a platform for authentic relationship development, and then the programming will be fun. But first, let's figure out locally what each of those relationships could be, because I've gotten profound gratitude from being in relationships as much with my JCC colleagues as my secular colleagues in Baltimore.
Thank you. That sounds fantastic. Love it.
We have 2 questions from Zoom. The first one is from David Gelfer, and he asks, as a CEO of the Baltimore JCC, what one thing would you ask of the new JCC Association CEO to directly benefit your local JCC?
What will I ask me to tell my successor?
If you weren't, I guess the hypothetical situation, what would you ask the new CEO of JCC Association to do for your local community?
care about me, see me, recognize me, check in on me, not just wait when there's a crisis. I don't care, know it's my birthday. Follow what's going on in the news and just send me a text and saying, I'm seeing some stuff going on in the community, checking in on you. I mean, the greatest thing about phones today, you can sit there on a Sunday morning over coffee and send 100 texts without talking to anybody. And people feel connected. I just want people to be seen, feel heard, and feel connected. So I would just say to that new CEO, see me.
And the next question is from Michael Gold. And he asks, knowing you were hosting the CEOs in Baltimore for MidGov before you attained this position, with your Baltimore CEO hat on, what are the most important questions you were hoping to have answered at the conference?
How many people are going to pay at the highest level of their dues? Yeah. I think the question I ask of my colleagues is, do they want to be investors in the future? Just like I've asked donors, you might not get the outcome tomorrow or in a year, but you can say you were in the foxhole in the beginning as an investor. And I need my colleagues to be investors and to trust. I've been paying dues for 17 years and I never questioned them. And any of my colleagues want us to understand how I value dues, where I see dues, how I explain dues, I'll be happy to do it in a moment's notice and fly to any community. And I can assure you that the Baltimore Finance Committee has never talked about dues, ever. Because it's something that's passionate as a CEO. It's a line item, like the electricity bill, like professional development. I would hope to get to a place that my colleagues are not asking, what are you doing for me? But how can I contribute? How can I be an investor? And that they will obviously see the ROI on that. So I will be asking them the questions of, how can we get them quickly engaged? How can I get some of them that have been disenfranchised, frustrated? How can they lift that cloud and really be investors at this moment? Because we must do this work together.
Hi, Marissa Mandry, I'm from Northbrook, Illinois. I see the two largest team spaces that are doing really good work today is BBYO and our own Maccabi. How do we want to synergize that more? Or what synergies do you see going forward with BBYO? And also, how do we seek to grow funding for Maccabi games? I know those are too complicated, but I really think they're
Did Sam
important.
text you?
But she did not.
No, first of all, the one thing I love to do, I don't claim or fancy myself as the smartest person in the room, but the one thing I think I'm good at is convening people. So the first thing I would say to Sam, let's grab Matt at BYO. Let's grab people deeply caring about the team space. We're one of the last 10 communities in Baltimore as part of the Jewish Funder Team Collaborative that started years ago. There's a lot of great work beyond BYO and Maccabi, JCC Maccabi doing teamwork. How do we bring all those thought leaders together, obsess about what we're trying to do here? But the more that we're collectively united and talking together, funders want a good investment. They want to know they get ROI. You know, I love it when I think of it sometimes as social venture philanthropy. They want to invest in something that they care deeply about to make the world a better place. And what I love the most is when the investors say, I just don't want to give you funds. Now I'm going to give you all my resources because I want to make sure you maximize the investment. You know, Sam with that accent, I'll take her anywhere. And I've known Sam a long time, since Orange County. I've known Matt for a long time at BYO. I just want this movement, and I coined this phrase maybe when I was 35 years old, just connect and collaborate, JCCs. I remember I ran a retreat, just connect and collaborate, right? So I want to bring that kind of operating mindset. I don't know exactly, I can rattle off right now 10 programs I'd love to see happen for teams. I want to keep myself up a little higher up in the air right now. But I think that if people know what we stand for and how we don't want to duplicate, but amplify, curate, and create, and we're talking some also measurable outcomes, I think we're going to be very, very inspired.
What you were saying before, what you as the Baltimore executive has to do CEO of the JCC Association of North America, I said the whole thing. What are your feelings about how to make the relationship between the JCCA and the field more interactive? In other words, so that things don't appear just coming from the JCCA to the field, but that the ideas, the programs, the thoughts, that the JCCA could be a sort of conductor of those things out in the field as well.
So you might be a little repetitive here, it all starts with relationships. And then knowing me and me putting in the effort one-on-one. Jumping on Zooms with 20, 30 people is lovely, but being in a relationship and going to JCCs and seeing in their hallways what they're proud of, knowing that they can have a trusted colleague to tell me what their challenges are. And I can really be listening, as I said earlier, and hearing them with accountability, what's each of their levels of expertise to contribute to the field. I want this field to say, here I am, how can I be helpful? The first thing you need to do is be back in a relationship, an honest relationship. I think a lot of people care deeply about this movement and would work on lots of things for us if we ask them respectfully, as I said earlier about all of your time, respect their time. They can't jump onto calls that are unfocused or undisciplined. Execs are busy. I've seen that on both sides, right? So I would say, Sheila, that for me, it's going to be a lot of one-on-one and reaching out. I'm also old school when it comes to governance. And it will drive the team a little batty for a while, but I believe the more the better. When we dealt with the pandemic in Baltimore, we hemorrhaged like many JCCs. And I said, I need every board member to be touching this roadmap. I need every past chair to touch it. And I need about 10 to 20 people from the community, it was like 50 people. And we have 2 weeks to figure out this budget. We unfortunately have to let go of 80% of our staff. An awful time. And I remember my chair said, wait, you want to get 60-something people involved in 2 weeks? Take a look at every aspect of this organization and make a recommendation. And that was everything from the number of people that needed to stay in every department, which programs would we run. We were the only camp in town that opened that summer. What would we need to do? How would we stay connected and relevant? And I tell you that story because people thought it was Michigan, that it was crazy. You're going to get 60 people. I said to the exec team, you're each making 10 phone calls today. By 5 o'clock, tell me who said yes, who said no. Everyone said yes. The executive assistant said, you're crazy. I go, task forces, 6 to 10 people each. Let's start Monday. You're gonna have a scheduling nightmare for the next 2 days. Everyone's home, no one's leaving their houses, they're all looking to do something. And everyone felt like they contributed to that plan. So when it came out, and as dark a day as that was for JCC Baltimore, and many of us in the field, it was collaborative and people owned it. I just said earlier, there's 70-something people on this board. There's 170 execs. Someone wants to count? I think we're at 240. There's 170 boards here. I think that just took us now to 410. There's about 30 funders that probably should be, that's 450. How are we gonna get 450 people to feel like they're touching this movement? I can tell you, that's my vision. My vision is that everyone will be given an opportunity to contribute in a meaningful way. But I can tell you that the funders today and the JCC, they don't want to just tell me I forget. They want to involve me, I'll understand. They really want to be in partnership. I think the days are over of funders. And I would even ask this to Sandy Cardin from his days at Houston. They're not looking to just give us a check. They're looking to be in deep relationship and collaboration with us, which means that takes hours, time, effort, and a team that also understands how to work in that kind of governance model. So the long answer is 1% at a time, but my vision would be that everyone feels like they're contributing and touching the movement.
So Barak.
Uh-oh.
No, as one of those guys who came from the outside and is now inside and has seen a number of leadership changes in this organization, I have to tell you, I'm the most excited I've been since I've been around.
Thank you very
And
much.
I can't speak for everybody. But you're a guy that knows lives and breathes JCC. You understand that we have an opportunity to be leaders in really North America jewelry, but really worldwide jewelry, and will help us seize the moment. I don't really have questions. I just wanted to tell you how proud I am
Thank you.
to see you in this role and excited for you, even though I'm leaving. I'm still going to be around, and I'm still here. So, and I will be for you and the movement. So thanks.
Well, first of all, about a decade ago, there was a guy named Phil Berman who came in to run the JCC of Charlotte. Does anyone remember Phil? He came from the corporate world. He was a board chair. He had kind of lost some trust, and he wanted to professionalize the movement. And I was so enamored by him. I was also a little nervous about how board chairs are coming into the folds. What does that mean for the next year? But that guy, Phil, and the corporate leaders that came after them taught me about KPIs. They taught me about dashboards. They taught me how to professionalize the work. And Mark, you're the same. You came into this work trying to bridge the time at Cincinnati. I know your predecessors. And most of these people like Mark and Brian Fisher, right? And Siegel, sorry. Mark and Brian, my buddies. Sorry for confusing names for a moment. It's been a lot. But Brian and Mark and others like them fall in love with the field. They fall in love with the team. They think they're there for a short time to kind of reset and restart. Then they see the meaning behind the work. So, you know, Yashikar to you for all your years and commitment. As I said to you on the phone last week, you might be retiring, but I have your cell. You're not going away. I know how to find you, and I appreciate all your kind words.
It's happiest I've seen him in a while, actually. You keep 70 board members, a lot of people in the room. We're all going home on Tuesday. I know momentum is a terrible thing to waste, and we're building a lot of momentum. There's a lot of excitement right now across the field. At the same time, I also know that there's a transition period, obviously, and I respect everything that you need to do in Baltimore, obviously. But if we can all do one small thing on Wednesday morning to help continue to build that momentum, what would it be?
Tell your local exec how excited you are. Tell them how optimistic you are about the future. To tell them to move from a place of pessimism to optimism. To get excited. How encouraged you feel. We have work to do. And how excited you are to do that work in partnership with me, with each other. Andrew, you and I know each other well. Just lifting that would be massive for me if all of you can tell your communities how excited you are. One more question. Who's going to wrap it up?
Okay, last question, but it's not really a question, because what I wanted to say is that all the things that Barak is talking about here for JCCA, JCC Association, he came into our boardroom in 2006 in a very dysfunctional boardroom, a very low morale staff, and said the exact same things. And, you know, we went from where we were then, which was not good. Even one of our finance officers died during this time. I mean, it was not good. And he said the same things, and he did the same things, and he helped to transform our board, which helped to transform our organization. And Jen came in and she took it and she continued that. But like, I'm going to trust the process because I heard you talk about the right seats on the bus, Jim Collins, good to great, the flywheels, all of it. And so I just wanted to say that I am thrilled to